Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Disney. Bob Iger says he feels overwhelmed and exhausted. Disney is in worse shape than he expected when he took over. He also has Nelson Peltz, a multi-billionaire, coming after him, demanding to be put on the board of directors with two more of his friends so he can take control of Disney and fix Disney. It's starting to seem like Bob Iger might not make it to 2026 because he may just quit. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Okay, first things first, this is coming from The Wrap, and I want you to know I don't know Bob Iger's sister's grandmother. This is not sneaky inside information. There are some great tips that come out from people on YouTube. This is not a secret tip that came from Bob Iger's secret finance operation. Some of the other guys' tips are really good. This is not one of those. This is my analysis because I knew of Nelson Peltz from before this all started taking place because he's a leveraged buyout guy and a finance guy. I've been studying Bob Iger for quite a while now, doing a lot of videos based on Bob Iger. I've been studying Disney since Michael Eisner's time with Disney. This is looking a lot like Michael Eisner's time with Disney, when basically, even though Bob Iger does control the board of directors at Disney and Michael Eisner did not, Bob Iger does not seem to have a lot of support at the company because its recent results have been so bad. From The Wrap, Bob Iger found Disney in worse shape than he expected, now overwhelmed and exhausted, according to Bloomberg. Bloomberg did this absolutely massive piece on Bob Iger, Disney, what's been going on, the changes, and of course at the top it's got this great graphic. Has Bob Iger lost the magic? Disney's legendary CEO came out of retirement to save the company right in time for its 100th birthday. Nothing has gone his way. Has he lost his magic? Yes, Bob Iger has lost his magic. He cannot do anything to fix Disney. I've done a lot of videos about this. Part of it is times have changed, and Bob Iger has a very long history with Disney, and then prior to that, a very long history with ABC. It's really his entire professional career has been tied up first with ABC and then with Disney. He wound up CEO of Disney. He did a great job acquiring very difficult franchises to acquire. Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilm. Pixar was furious with Michael Eisner. Pixar had already said they were going to leave Disney. Bob Iger not only got them to come back and stay with Disney, and then he was able to use Pixar's management to fix Disney animation, which actually did work. But none of that works anymore. Times have changed too much, and Bob Iger made the crucial mistake of getting out of touch with what the fans really wanted, with what consumers really wanted for each of these brands. For a long time, the public was happy with what Marvel was doing. They had been happy enough with what Star Wars was doing under Lucasfilm. Pixar was doing phenomenal business. But as the years went on, Iger and his people who were running these divisions stopped caring about and staying interested in what their core fans were actually interested in, and instead started pushing agenda. And now they're completely disconnected from their passionate fan bases, and they're not respecting their original franchises, whether it's Snow White or the race swapping in Little Mermaid, or the destruction of the boys-focused Marvel Universe, or the complete nonsense with Star Wars. No company can ignore its customers and tell their customers, look, this is what you want. It's not what you think you want. And that's what Disney's been trying to do. It just doesn't work. And Bob Iger, no wonder he's exhausted. That job is never going to get finished. Bob Iger's heralded return to Disney C-suite last year hadn't produced the rosy results investors hoped for, and the array of setbacks he's faced has left the 72-year-old executive overwhelmed and exhausted, even privately questioning why he returned, Bloomberg reported on Tuesday. This report from Bloomberg is pretty much like an obituary of Bob Iger. Of course, he's not dead, but his career with Disney looks like it is ending. Disney's stock is now down more than 9% since Iger took back the CEO title from Bob Chapek, and activist investor Nelson Peltz is once again rattling the cage and pushing for a seat on the company's board. The first time Peltz went after Disney, Peltz owned $1 billion worth of Disney stock. Since that time, Peltz has now increased his position to $2.5 billion worth of stock. So Peltz is not going away. But the challenges at Disney go beyond the potential for a renewed proxy fight with a cantankerous investor. The company was in, quote, worse shape than Iger realized when he came back, Bloomberg reported. On the streaming side, Disney Plus was losing hundreds of millions of dollars every quarter, and the 2024 deadline for turning a profit, a promise the company made to Wall Street, was looming even as costs for producing shows were completely out of control. Their film costs are also completely out of control, much higher than industry average, and that's the number that you look at. What's Universal spending on a movie? What's Disney spending on a movie? What's Netflix spending on a TV show? What's Disney spending on a TV show? Netflix freaks out if they spend $15 million on an episode of Sandman, even though it's one of their most popular shows. They almost canceled season 2 over that. Disney spends $25 million on a Marvel show and could care less, even though many people are not watching them. A deal Iger shepherded through in 2016 to acquire streaming technology, BAMTech, turned out to be more expensive than expected, and the tech was not as efficient as rivals tech, Bloomberg reported. Another deadline Iger negotiated with Comcast for Disney to acquire the 33% of Hulu that it doesn't own for no less than $27.5 billion at the market value for the entire entity. So a third of that is around $9 billion, but Comcast is going to very likely get more than $9 billion. It's not going to be like $20 billion, but it'll probably be $15 billion. That deadline is fast approaching, but it's not clear what value taking that stake in Hulu will deliver. Well, it's very complicated, but simply put, Disney Plus has a cancellation rate on its subscriptions of around 20%, Hulu less. Warner Bros. Discovery's Max service has a cancellation of around 26%. The reason Disney's cancellation rate is not as bad as HBO Max is because a lot of Disney Plus's subscriptions are bundled with Hulu, which makes it more inconvenient to cancel Disney Plus. That's one factor, but when they merge the two, there are going to be a lot of cost saving. As Brian Roberts, head of Comcast, says, Hulu is a kingmaker asset. To run a streaming service and to not have control of Hulu is to be looking at being an insignificant player the way that whole industry is shaking out. The sum total of the challenges has left Bob Iger joking, "Why did I come back?" the report said, noting the once tireless CEO spent a significant amount of time on his yacht in the Mediterranean this summer, then was laid up at home following surgery. The musing comes despite the report saying that Iger, quote, immediately regretted his 2020 departure from the CEO's chair and its accompanying spotlight and tried to get his job back, an account the company disputed. Iger's return was heralded by Wall Street and staff worldwide, and he had early success with fending off Peltz, who mounted a proxy battle over Disney spending by announcing $3 billion in spending cuts, including firing 7,000 employees. Those cuts came with a restructuring plan that created new divisions in the company, but it's still losing hundreds of millions of dollars on streaming, and it suffered a string of box office flops this summer, despite a resurgence in theater going led by rival studios' productions of Barbie and Oppenheimer. Moreover, Iger seemed blindsided by the state of the TV industry, Bloomberg reported. With its networks rapidly losing viewers as they switch to streaming, the report said Iger now has few choices but to sell off Disney's TV business, which includes ABC, the Disney Channel, FX, and National Geographic networks, while ESPN is in desperate need of a transformation from a shrinking cable operation into a streaming service. I disagree. I do not think, unless Nelson Peltz wants those TV networks sold, they're going to get sold. They ain't getting sold because Disney does use all of its distribution channels, like the streaming, like the cable networks, like the TV network, to distribute a lot of its own production. So they will lose distribution, and they will also lose precious revenue if they sell those networks. It really would have to be part of an overall reorganization plan that Iger is not going to be doing. Peltz could do it. Rumors swirled that Iger was considering selling Disney to Apple, where he sat on the board for almost a decade, but by summer's end, that chatter had died down. Instead, Iger is trying, quote, incremental fixes, the report said, tinkering with the movie release calendar, raising Disney Plus subscription prices, publicly toying with selling ABC, and inking a sports betting deal tied to ESPN. And none of that tinkering is enough. He also shifted positions on the Hollywood strikes, stating that Disney's relationship with its creative talent is a top priority. But after many of his allies left Disney when he did, Iger is also increasingly isolated, the report said, questioning whether the executive has, quote, lost the magic he brought to the company during his previous stint at the helm. What Bob Iger knows how to do is to get a hold of other people's intellectual property and then smile a lot and be a salesman. None of that applies to what the problems are at Disney now. He's been at Disney too long. I'm not sure anyone else could have talked Steve Jobs into selling Pixar. He did that, so respect for doing that. Amazing how he got a hold of Marvel. Incredible how he got a hold of Lucasfilm. How do you get Star Wars away from George Lucas? He did it. That was great. The Fox acquisition hasn't worked out. And that was the first big mistake Bob Iger probably made. One that basically meant there was nothing else that Bob Iger was going to do that was going to be significantly good for the company. Launching Disney Plus was good for them, but they didn't manage it well. There's too much that needs to be done in terms of strategic finance at Disney that Bob Iger has no conception of. Nelson Peltz knows how to do it, and it's interesting with Nelson Peltz coming around. I wonder if Bob Iger will take the opportunity. He has been talking to Peltz, we've learned, since May of this year. Will he take that opportunity to say to Peltz, okay, let's go ahead and work together? And that would even give Bob Iger an excuse to say, look, did the best I could. Peltz came on here. We don't have another successor. Maybe it's time for a pair of fresh eyes. And then essentially Iger quits, and he could quit before his 2026 contract is up. Bob Iger is too old to be having fights that he can't win as Disney is ruined and the stock goes down and he destroys his legacy. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.